Hello, and thanks for joining us for this Ask Joe Investigate special program. It's a chance to revisit some of our investigative stories that we have brought to you, update you on what has changed, and continue to push for answers. Well, it was a big promise from the federal government starting off. A rural community an hour and a half east of Reno would finally get high-speed internet after waiting many years for that to happen. What happened instead was a lawsuit, two separate criminal investigations into $9 million in state money that is now missing. Stephen Cromer, the owner of Uprise, is now charged with 31 counts of theft as a community is left searching for answers. Pershing County Library Director Cameron Mitchell describes the frustration many people here in Lovelock experience without access to affordable, high-speed internet.
Just getting on, logging into a website to do banking or anything like that, it could have taken 5 minutes or so.
Just to get on.
Just get everything booted up.
The federal government promised a solution to the slow service. Project Reconnect would deliver high-speed internet to rural communities like Lovelock. The nation's agriculture secretary at the time, Tom Vilsack, even paid a visit to Reno in 2022 to announce what was coming. Everything was lined up, but the USDA, which headed up this project, insisted on a percentage of matching funds. So the Nevada Department of Transportation came up with the money to get things started. NDOT handed over $9.1 million to kickstart the project in 2023, but the project never got off the ground, and what happened to that $9.1 million is now the question. Documents obtained by News 4 show the $9.1 million was paid up front in 2023 to a company called Uprise Fiber. But problems surfaced soon after. A lawsuit was filed against Uprise the same year, and the state issued a cease and desist order against another contractor, Rocky Mountain West Telecom, in early 2024. But as the project stalled, bank records obtained by News 4 show repeated withdrawals were made from the Uprise account by the company's owner, Stephen Cromer. Those bank records show Cromer made 22 withdrawals totaling $5 million during one 3-month period at the end of 2024. And at this point, the account is almost entirely drained, with only $10,000 of that $9.1 million remaining. So where did all that money go?
As I sit here today, I have no idea where that money is.
Attorney Mark Simons is representing krnv, a small contractor who filed suit against Uprise and NDOT, claiming they were never paid for the work they did on the Reconnect project. Simons' fear is the state now has no way of getting that $9.1 million back.
That's all our money. That's the state's money that is gone.
Can we speak to Mr. Cromer?
He's actually not in right now.
Okay.
He's off-site.
We tried to track down Stephen Cromer, the owner of Uprise, and the man whose name is listed on all of those bank withdrawals, multiple times.
I'm Joe from Channel 4, checking back for Mr. Cromer, trying to talk to him.
But each time we went to his Reno office, we were told he was not available.
You reached Stephen Cromer. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
And he hasn't returned our phone calls either. But Cromer's not the only one who is refusing to talk. The USDA, which headed up this whole project, has ignored our questions about it. So has Governor Joe Lombardo. The Attorney General's office and NDOT's spokesperson did respond, telling us they're declining to comment, citing pending litigation, which is currently in the initial stages known as discovery. So the questions continue, mainly who benefited from this deal? Clearly, taxpayers did not.
Nobody's accounting for the money.
And residents of Lovelock certainly did not. Now they can only hope the federal government will someday deliver on its promise to bring a modern-day convenience to this small Nevada town.
When you're already physically isolated and there's no opportunity for this sort of connection that can take place over the internet, you are caged in on all fronts.
But with $9 million now missing, those dreams of high-speed service have come to a screeching halt. A lot of new developments on this story. We did make 2 visits to the Cromer Investments office, as we showed you in that story, and soon after we stopped by, the company announced that Stephen Cromer had resigned from the family business. Well, the criminal investigation into Cromer and Uprise came to a head in May when Attorney General Aaron Ford announced that Cromer had been charged with 31 counts of theft.
After this agreement was entered into, Cromer moved millions of dollars intended for this infrastructure project into his personal account.
Cromer turned himself in hours after that announcement by the Attorney General that charges had been filed against him. He posted bail and was released from jail the next day. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his trial has been set for 2027. One of the most surprising aspects of this whole case really was that state lawmakers declined to launch their own investigation into the Uprise case, even though millions of dollars in state funds have gone missing. Well, we caught up with State Senator Melanie Scheibel during our investigation, a Democrat and chair of the Judiciary Committee, to find out why she did not call for an investigation. And you can watch what happened during our interview.
I think that we still need more information. And if we have more information that indicates to us that there has been some kind of misconduct, I will be the first person to look into it. My job is to ask, how did this happen, and not to assign blame before we know.
But you won't be doing that in an official setting? Okay. You won't be doing that in a committee? As you saw, her staffer ushered her away, and that interview ended very abruptly. As we were simply asking questions about this process, lawmakers declined to take any official action on the Uprise issue during the legislative session. Well, the drama did not end there with Uprise. Two Las Vegas attorneys representing Uprise got called on the carpet by the judge for using artificial intelligence to submit their court filings. The lawyers admitted they used ChatGPT to submit a motion to the court that turned out to be filled with errors that the judge caught. Washoe District Court Judge David Hardy called a hearing and decided in the end to allow both lawyers, Jan Tomasic and Daniel Mann, to avoid sanctions if they agreed to write letters to the state bar and their law school deans, and also agree to teach classes based on what they've learned from this experience. Judge Hardy said that he wanted to use the experience to teach a lesson to others about the pitfalls of relying too heavily on artificial intelligence. Well, throughout the course of this investigation, so many of you have weighed in on the case with lots of questions. Sabrina Pellet commented on Facebook saying, "Keep digging. Those involved and claiming they can't respond want to sweep this case under the carpet because this has corruption written all over it." That's what she said on Facebook. Well, Sabrina wasn't the only one sharing her thoughts on this issue. Colleen Winans wrote in saying, "Keep at it, Joe. We have a right to know where our tax money is going." And let me just say, Colleen, you have every right to know where your tax money is going, and that's why we've been so persistent in asking questions and following this story. As Sandy Howe pointed out, this stinks to high heaven, and she asked, what does the governor have to say about this? Well, Sandy, to answer your question, Governor Lombardo really has declined to comment on the Uprise case. His office has not responded to our requests for an interview. And welcome back. A new law is now in place which will dictate who gets notified when there's a spill of any kind on the Truckee River or another waterway in Nevada. And it's all because of a story we brought you here on News 4 that got the attention of state lawmakers. They took action after we found that other government agencies did not.
Severe sewer smell.
This story started out when a concerned viewer spoke up. Lifelong Sparks resident Scott Trabert followed his nose, you might say, and reported a serious problem in his neighborhood to us here at News 4.
It was quite extensive. We couldn't even use our backyard.
The issue we found was a sewer pipe from this apartment complex in downtown Sparks, which was mistakenly connected to the city's storm drain by construction crews in 2022. As a result, 2.5 million gallons of raw sewage emptied from that apartment complex right here into the Truckee River, and nobody downstream was ever notified.
The only way we found out about it was through your story.
Pyramid Lake Tribal Chairman Stephen Wadsworth says tribal members were angry that they weren't notified and decided to take action. The tribe wanted a law requiring that they be notified in the event of a spill impacting their primary source of water, the Truckee River. But navigating the legislature is not necessarily familiar territory for the Pyramid Lake tribe.
Pyramid Lake's not used to, writing law or getting laws passed.
So tribal leaders turned to State Senator Ira Hansen for help. It didn't hurt that Hansen, a plumber by trade, is also one of the most outspoken members of the legislature.
What the hell happened?
Hansen had his own questions after seeing our story, and with the help of the tribe's lobbyist, Will Adler, introduced SB 276, which would make notification in the event of a spill, like the one that happened in this case, the law.
We held our line. We said in all ways, Nevadans, not just Pyramid Lake, should be informed when there has been a mass waste event.
What we're trying to do at this point, though, is move forward so that if something like this happens again, there is a clear pattern that all government entities will follow.
SB 276 requires that state environmental regulators and downstream users be notified in the event of a spill. In a rare example of bipartisanship, the bill made it through both houses in Carson City with unanimous support before being signed by Governor Lombardo.
Because of your story, that change has now happened, and the law will be this from here on forward.
And it all started out with a simple viewer question.
And then you reached out to us.
Yeah.
And now a law got passed. How does that make you feel?
Well, that's awesome to hear that things can be rectified and taken care of to keep our area beautiful.
Yeah.
And thanks to our viewer, Scott Trabert, for getting the ball rolling on this story. Lots of updates here as well. Since our story aired, the city of Sparks has revised its estimate of the discharge. Now says the maximum amount of that spill was likely closer to 214,000 gallons, so much less than what was originally estimated, and that's based on the occupancy figures at the apartment complex at the time. Also, there continue to be more developments with this story. The developer Silverwing agreed to a settlement with state regulators. That happened in October. Silverwing, which is now out of business, will pay the state $33,000. NDEP says the money will be used for projects designed to improve and restore water quality throughout the Truckee River watershed. So the money will go to a good cause there, environmentally speaking. Representatives for Silverwing say as the spill, as I mentioned a moment ago, was much smaller than what was first reported, and that is important to update as well. Lots of reaction coming in from viewers on my Facebook page about this story. Tammy Holt Still weighing in saying, I think Sparks should have a penalty also because their inspectors did not catch the mistake as they should. Well, Tammy, that part still being determined. Sparks has appealed the state's findings, so no final determination has been made in that case. The state did issue a notice of alleged violation, but again, that case is now under appeal with the city. Meantime, Bill wants to know, is the tribe being compensated? There's no money set aside for the tribe, Bill, but the settlement that the developer is paying will go, as I mentioned, toward water restoration efforts. Stephen Wadsworth, the chair of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, told me that he's just happy that new law was passed to hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. And welcome back, everyone. A story we've been covering closely for years now. A trial has been set for 2027 in a long-running murder case in Reno. Paul Eichelberger is charged in the 2016 shooting death of Sierra Ciccarelli. He was arrested in 2018, but then released. When the case was transferred to Lyon County, he was indicted and formally charged in 2022. As you see here, Sierra's friends and family staged a rally this past spring to bring attention to the case, and they say it's impossible to get closure with the ongoing delays. The trial now set for April of 2027, and that will be more than 10 years after the crime occurred. There were big developments in a Battle Mountain murder case as we pushed for answers. An arrest was made 3 years after the victim was shot and stabbed in his own home. Laren Durfee was murdered in August of 2022. Police say he was shot and stabbed to death. Authorities provided no updates on the case publicly, but 3 years after the crime, Durfee's live-in girlfriend was arrested and charged in his death. Christine Winters will have a preliminary hearing that is scheduled for December as the criminal case is now moving ahead. And on a very positive note, one of our viewers was recognized recently for speaking out on behalf of other women. Heidi Keene of Minden filed a complaint against her doctor and waited years for the medical board to take action. We found that some patients were waiting as long as 7 years for the medical board to resolve their complaints. Keene's doctor, Samuel Chacon, eventually had his license revoked by the medical board. Keene was given the Voices of Courage Award for her willingness to speak up and fight for the rights of women, and we say a big congratulations to Heidi as well. And on that note, I want to thank you for tuning in for our Ask Joe Investigate special report. We will continue to do our best to address any questions that you have, so feel free to reach out. You can scan this QR code right on your screen there. It's one way that we serve you, our viewers, by digging in to get the answers and information you are looking for. So keep your questions coming, and we will see you next time.